Hi everyone, so we're going to continue on with our species interaction study here, taking a look at predation. So what is predation? Predation is the interaction between two species in which one species, the predator, is feeding on another species, the prey. In really complex food webs, we know that the predator and prey, the predator of one species might also be a prey of another. But when we're taking a look at specific relationship here, it's really just between the two animals that we're looking at. But again, it's one animal eating another. So in some cases, animals have evolved some mechanisms to avoid or protect themselves against their predators. And we saw a really great example of that with the lab that we did. So the mice who developed the black colored fur, who lived on the lava spill, were able to survive better because they matched with their background, unlike the light-colored mice. So that would be one of the mechanisms that they adapted to protect themselves from predators. There are other examples too, like cactus having spikes on their outside to protect themselves from other animals as well. And some predators have really specific types of prey that they eat, and because of that really close relationship, we can see differences in the size of populations as they increase and decrease with patterns. So if we take a look at this graph below, we can see that we have a snowshoe hare, which is going to be our prey here, and a lynx, which is going to be our predator. So if we take a look at this increase around 1865, we can see that the snowshoe hare population boomed really high to about 160,000 snowshoe hare. And if we take a look at the lynx population, about 2 to 3 years after this boom in the snowshoe hare population, we also saw an increase in the lynx population. And that's really going to be due to the fact that since their prey is more accessible, more available for them, they're going to increase their population as well because they're going to have the food source that they need to survive. But if we also take a look, as soon as that lynx population increases pretty significantly, we see a rapid decrease in the number of snowshoe hare here. So again, we're going to see a decrease in the lynx a couple years after because that food source now is gone. And we can see that pattern happening throughout the years. As those snowshoe hare increase significantly, the lynx population will also increase, and then we'll see a quick decline of that snowshoe hare population, and again that will happen. And that's just because lynx, that is their one source of food really, so that's the prey that they're going to go after. The next relationship that we're going to take a look here is parasitism. So many times parasitism, people connect with predation, but there are some differences that we'll talk about in just a moment. But let's talk about what parasitism is in general. So parasitism is an organism that lives in or on another organism and feeds off that organism. So the one that is feeding off the other organism is called the parasite. And some examples here are going to be ticks, fleas, tapeworms, heartworms, leeches. All of those would be considered parasites. But the animal who is being eaten by the parasite is going to be known as the host. So the act of parasitism is the relationship between two species in which the parasite benefits from one species and the host is harmed. So the parasite is benefiting, the host is being harmed, very similar to predation where the predator is benefiting and the prey is being harmed. So let's talk about some of these differences. So some differences between parasite and a predator is that usually a parasite is going to spend a lot of its life in or on that host. And most of the time, the parasite isn't going to kill their host, unlike the predator-prey relationship, where the predator is always going to kill the prey that they're going after. So that's one big difference here. Most of the time, the parasites are not going to kill their hosts, but they are going to feed off them. It's actually an advantage here, too, that the host live as long as possible, so the parasite can continue to eat off that organism. But we do know if the parasite is eating at this host, it is going to be weakened, and there's a very good chance of exposure to disease. A really good example of that is those ticks. So when ticks are on their host, they are feeding off of them, but sometimes they can leave behind the disease of Lyme disease. So that's a really great example here of parasitism. So I do want to encourage you to watch this video on the slide. Feel free to click on that link. I think it gives a really good description of those two and some of the differences between them. If you have any questions, please let me know.